It seems that you break through on your own because a lot of bands were surfing on Britpop wave in 90s, but you are just Morcheeba, so to speak. Tell me more about that voyage and when you felt that you becoming popular in the world.
We were very lucky that the first track that we wrote and recorded, Trigger Hippie, we released it as a single, and it did very well. It was released on like 12-inch vinyl, and people started playing it in clubs and things like that. And we'd got a record deal, and we were making an album. So when our first record came out, it was just after a couple of other bands like Portishead and Massive Attack and Tricky had released their records. We made them at about the same time, but we released ours afterwards. And everybody in the press said that we were called trip hop, which we didn't really like at the time. But we don't mind it now. It's quite cute, really. And I think in our minds, we were just kind of making music. We were just writing songs and doing the sounds we liked. And that's all that we really thought about. We didn't really realize that it had to fit into a genre or anything like that. And so we just followed our own path, really. Like I said, I was into blues music. Skye actually listened to quite a lot of country music and a lot of jazz singers like Nina Simone, people like that. So it was just a big melting pot of different musical ideas and genres, because we had quite a wide range of musical tastes ourselves. The things that influenced us came from a very wide range of stuff. And we were very lucky in that as soon as we released the first record, we did a world tour. We went all around the world and played in as many countries as possible. And we didn't become famous, but we became at least popular enough that we could go back and play again. So we're very lucky that from the beginning of our band, that we've had quite a fan base spread out around the world. And that has kept us in good stead, really, because we can tour as much as we want, and we can make a living without having to, try and make records that sound really poppy or whatever. We can still make the music that we want to make.
Yeah, and Blaze Away is the first album without Paul. Is that right?
Yeah, Skye and I made a record called Skye Ross. That was the first record we made without Paul together. But Skye's also made, I think, 4 or maybe 5 solo albums. I've made a couple of different records as well. But Blaze Away was the first album with the Morcheeba name without Paul, that's right. And then this new album is called Blackest Blue. And that will be the 10th album that Morcheeba have made.
And was it strange to work under the name Skye and Ross without Paul after all that years?
It was a bit different. It was quite nice that it was a change, really. But we, when we played live, we played a lot of Morcheeba songs anyway. So really, there wasn't much of a difference. The record that we made together, I would say, was probably a bit more organic. It was less electronic than Morcheeba records. This new record, Blackest Blue, is more electronic. We had a guy called Henry Law from a band called Umino, who put together some of the beats for us. He'd done a remix for us on the last record, and we really loved it. So we asked him to do some beats for us. And so this record is a little bit more future-facing, I would guess, a bit more electronic. And I feel like Morcheeba, the center of gravity of it, is the mixing of organic and electronic things. It's when you have, slide blues guitar over hip hop beats with Skye singing. It's a mashup of different things.
And what inspires you lyrically today?
I don't really write the lyrics. Skye writes the lyrics, and from what I understand, she's inspired by everything in her life, whether it's her family and people around her that she loves, or things that she feels or sees in the news, or things that we do when we go traveling. For instance, the new single Sounds of Blue, which is out today.
Yeah.
That song is about her freediving in Thailand. She was there, and some friends of hers said, "Do you want to go out and freedive on this reef?" So she's not the most confident of swimmers, especially underwater. So I think she was very brave to do it, and she brought a lot of confidence to it, and she loved the experience. So she wrote a song about it, about going, you hold onto a weight and you go down on the rope, and you go down as far as you can and hold your breath, and then you come back to the top. And it's quite a transcendental experience, is from what I've understood.
Right. Among the others, you worked with David Byrne. Could you tell me how you managed to work together and what was the feeling?
That's funny because the album was called Feelings.
Feelings, yeah.
Yeah. He phoned us up. It was very weird. We've been fans of David Byrne and Talking Heads since we were kids. The Stop Making Sense live film was very influential on us, and all of our family were big Talking Heads fans. So we were sitting in the studio one day and the phone rang. We picked it up, and my brother said, "Hello, this is Paul, is Morcheeba studio." And he said, "Yeah, hello, this is David Byrne." And I think he thought it was a joke. I think he thought someone was playing a joke on him, but it was David Byrne. And he came over to London and met us, and we started doing some recording with him. He'd written the songs, and we put together some music for him. And it went very well. And he was a really amazing guy, very inspiring. And luckily we got to play some shows with him. We did the Jules Holland show, the BBC show in England, which is really, really good fun. And he taught us a lot, really. And he indulged us. He answered all of our questions we had about what it was like to be in the music business and all of those kinds of things. And it was great, really, really good. We also worked with another guy on David's label called Jim White, who was on Luakabot Records. He was more of a country singer. So that was quite interesting. I mean, on and off, we do production with other people, but as we became more popular worldwide, we spent more and more time on the road. And as the internet became more prevalent, everybody in the music business started to sell less records and relied more on playing live. And so I would say most of our energy goes into playing live, apart from at the moment, because of the pandemic, we haven't played for a year. So we've been at home, and I think that's probably what made us write the record so quickly and so focused on making a new record, because this is the first time since we started the band that we haven't been on the road the whole time.
And I read it, but I don't get it. Have you started a record company on your own?
Yeah, there's an imprint label called Fly Garrick, which is kind of mine. I started a band called Little Mountain, and we released an album on Fly Garrick Records. Fly Garrick, by the way, is the mushroom, the red mushroom with the white dots on, that if you eat it, you have a crazy psychedelic trip. Not that I've ever eaten that mushroom. I've eaten other mushrooms, but that one's a bit scary, I figure. So yeah, we called the label Fly Garrick, and then when the Skye and Ross record came out, I put it out through that, and then the last two Morcheeba records I've put out through Fly Garrick, and it's distributed by a company in the UK called Cartel Music.
And is there any other bands in label?
No, I mean, I don't really want to run it as a label. I don't really have the time for that. But there have been, other things that I've been interested in. I did a remix the other day for a band called Vonavella. I saw just a song that they posted online on Instagram, and I loved it. So I did a remix for them. So occasionally we do the odd thing for other bands.
Yeah, and we mentioned a few things, but how you see the changes in the music industry from the day you started till today?
It's kind of weird, really. I'm nostalgic for the old music business, because Generally, it used to be run by people that knew a lot about music. They could play instruments. They knew who wrote what song. They knew loads about different things. If you gave them music, they would talk to you about it and understand it. Whereas I think the big record companies now are just sort of run by businessmen that used to run washing powder companies or whatever. They're just interested in profit and nothing else really. And it's a shame. There's no real development of music anymore. I think that we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for the fact that people developed us and they invested money in helping us to make records and go on the road. Now there isn't really the investment. So unless you've got really rich parents, it's pretty difficult to get into the music business these days. So that's quite sad. The other side of it, though, that is more positive is that it's easily accessible. So, you know, you can release, you can record and put something up online and everyone around the world can find it instantly. And so now there isn't so many barriers. Certainly internationally, it was very hard for people in different countries to find records from other places, whereas now you can find anything from anywhere around the world instantly, and you can find out everything about that band or that person, which I think really, it's a shame because I used to like the mystery of music. I used to like buying old records and reading the back cover and finding out where they're from and what they're like. And that's kind of disappeared a bit now. Instantly, you can look on Wikipedia and find out everything about a band. And so that's a bit of a shame, really. But, you know, you can't stop change. I think change is the one constant thing. So we just have to get used to it, and we just have to, you know, adapt and do our best. I mean, like I said earlier, the good thing about the modern music business is there's a very strong live industry. And so it's great being able to go out and play in front of lots of people. Everybody's still very happy to buy tickets to go out and see bands. So that's really good.
One thing that is great for me is that vinyl is back. Backwards. It changes physical distribution of music. Vinyl, and you listen to that vintage sound.
Yeah.
And
I like vinyl too. It's still a niche market. I mean, I think some people just buy records to have them at home and they don't really listen to them. But it's really good that vinyl hasn't disappeared, because since I was a kid, I used to collect records. Well, I started by just stealing my parents, but you know, when I was a teenager, I would spend all of my money on records because they're great, you know, and I wanted to buy every Jimi Hendrix record or every John Lee Hooker record, and that's really what inspired me as a young kid. Like I said, now you can find everything that you want. All of those records that I spent ages trying to find or spent all of my pocket money on, now I can just look on Spotify and find it instantly. Which is a shame. It takes out the thrill of the hunt. But you know, it's nice that kids these days can find all those Jimi Hendrix records really easily.
And with great sound.
Yeah, and I mean, vinyl sounds great. It's obviously a bit quieter than modern, like mastered digital releases, but I think it sounds warmer and it's more dynamic, which is nice.
Yeah. And when I think about electronica, my first thought is Hacienda Club. What do you think about that club and rave scene?
I never went when I was probably too young, I think. When we started touring with the band, I was only 18. And in a lot of places we went, especially in America, I was too young to actually go in the clubs that we were playing. And I didn't really like dance music that much. I preferred old music. I liked hip hop and some electro, things like Aphex Twin, Square Pusher, stuff like that. But I wasn't such a fan of house music or techno music. I found it a bit too sort of moronic. It's too repetitive for me. I prefer something that's a little bit more cerebral.
And what you think about this whole situation with virus? Tell me more. What's the situation in Britain?
In Britain, it's a bit like a zombie movie, but a zombie movie where all the zombies aren't like rotting. They just still look like normal humans. So if you go out in London, everyone's just wandering around on the streets with nothing to do because everything is shut. It's a real shame. We've just had 100,000 people die in this country, unnecessarily so, because we've got a buffoon clown as our prime minister, and he doesn't really care, or he doesn't really know what he's doing. And he's managed to put the UK through this terrible pandemic and Brexit at the same time. So we've got a double whammy, and it's pretty fucking awful, really. But you know, it's going to get better, and I'm hoping by the summer or so, things should be heading back to normal, and we should be able to go on the road and do some shows and see our fans again.
Yeah, but I'm reading that some festivals are postponed, like Glastonbury and a few others for next year.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, I think all the ones that happen in the early summer, like Glastonbury in June, is postponed. And it's a very, very big festival, Glastonbury. I mean, it's like 200,000 or 300,000 people. And so I think the smaller ones, maybe they'll be able to get away with it. We're hoping to still do some festivals in July and August. We'll just have to wait and see, really. It's impossible to plan anything. So we're just kind of rolling along with it, as same as everyone else.
Right. And a few questions for the end. How you choose musicians for tours and live performances?
Whoever's available. No, we'd for the last sort of 5 years or so, we've had Skye's son Jager playing drums in the band. He's a very natural musician. He's great. I asked him to join the band when he was 18, which is the same age as I was when I started the band with my brother. So it was kind of, it was a nice, like a cycle, you know, bringing fresh blood into the band. And he's really, really into music, and it's great to have someone so young and fresh in it. Skye's husband, Steve, plays the bass in the band. He's played in the band on and off for 20 years. So that's nice, and it's good for Skye to have her, you know, family and husband with her on the road, because it's quite a lonely experience, especially if you're the only girl with, you know, on a bus with 10 men. It's a bit daunting. So it's very nice for her to have her husband with her. And we also have a keyboard player called Dom Pipkin, who, again, he's played on and off with us for about 20 years. He played from the first album, Who Can You Trust? I think he played all the Fender Rhodes on Big Calm, our second record, and he has a career of his own as a blues honky-tonk piano player. He spends a lot of time in New Orleans playing jazz festivals and things like that. So that's really good. And we have a few other musicians like Ben Cowan and Greg Nielsen, who come and play with us when, you know, when we need them. But we try and keep the band as small as possible. At the moment, there's only 5 people in the live band, and it's just easier. I kind of like the sound of a small band as well, because you can play a lot more raucous because you're not getting in anyone else's way.
Right. But that's a great lineup. And
yes.
For the end, you played around the world. Could you pick one place that you really love to play?
It's really hard because there's so many great places. I was trying to think of the last time that we were in Montenegro. I think we played in 2017 at a festival in Podršku. It was like, I can't remember the name of the festival. It was like City and Groove or something like that.
Yeah. City Groove, yeah.
Yeah, City Groove, yeah. So that was really fun. I mean, we love playing in Eastern Europe because everyone seems to have such a great time. They seem to appreciate more than people in Western Europe. If you play festivals in England, everyone's seen everything before and they're bored with it. Whereas we love going to places like Russia is really good fun. We love, recently we went to South Africa and played in Cape Town. That was amazing, really, really good fun. Last year as well, we played in Mexico. That was good. It's only the second time we've been there and we really loved it. All of Latin America, South America, Central America is great fun. So yeah, there's a lot of great places. What I seem to remember enjoying the most when I was younger, though, was playing the big music festivals, like we've already mentioned, like Glastonbury and stuff, because they're so iconic, and it just feels like you're really part of something bigger. So that's really nice.
And is there any places you still want to play and you haven't yet?
Yes, Japan. We've never been to Japan. I don't know why they don't want us to go there. Whenever we say, can we come to Japan and play a gig? They say, no, go away.
I think that's not something personal.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's because they don't like me. I think it's because our music is very mellow and it never really became very popular in Japan. But we're still trying. I think before we die, we will play a gig in Tokyo.
Yeah, but I hope you will come back to Montenegro once more to see you play.
Yes, so do I. So do I. I mean, on this new record, we actually did a cover of a song by a lady from Croatia, a singer-songwriter called Irina Zilic, who we did a gig with in Zagreb, and we were very impressed with her. We really, really loved her songs and everything. And so we did a tour together, and we ended up, doing a cover of her song called The Moon. Mm-hmm. And we really hope to come back to Montenegro, to Croatia, all of those countries that are along the Mediterranean coast like that, because it's always very nice for us. We have what we call micro holidays. Mm-hmm. So, if we play in Montenegro, what I would love to do is get down to the coast and have a swim in the sea, maybe have a day off. Because I've never actually been to the coast in Montenegro, and I've heard it's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is. You're welcome to come and see. It's small coast, but really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely do. It's very high up on my list of things to do, is to go to the coast in Montenegro.
Great. Hope you see you then. And Ross, thank you for your time. That's it for this time. All best to you and your family.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you.